What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Legion of Orange Flyers show. This is episode number 1 of a new season. We're on my network. This is the same network, the RTB Philly Sports Network, which is Ring the Bell. I almost said Faceoff with Chris at the top because I did Faceoff with Chris for about 10 years. But look, it's episode 1 of a new season. Of course, I had to bug the guy, and thank God he said yes. Joining us this week, host of the Flyers Daily Podcast and Stick to Hockey Live, is my good buddy, Jason Myrtetus. Jason, what's going on, man?
Not much. 118 or 119 days until I'm presuming the Flyer season will start.
Yes.
I've pegged October 10th as the date that I think they'll start. I have no inside information, just based on when they usually start.
Right.
October 10th, it's 119 days, but who's counting?
It's going to be like listening to your show every day. At least I know, all right, we're one day closer, 1 day closer. Come on, get me there.
Because I constantly say it.
I know you do all the time.
I'm such a freaking glutton, and I'm such a miserable pain in the ass because, like, I hate the off season.
It's awful. It's awful.
I go it's like I'm watching the Cup game now, and Florida's just so good, and
They really are.
and it's great to watch that. But like, selfishly, like, I need the structure in my life of having to do work stuff more. But I just I dread the day the Cup's handed out because I know that there won't be any games for 4 months, and it pains me.
Does it? Let me, before we get into a litany of things I really want to just pick your brain about, and I have things I'm upset about, of course. Are you surprised that in today's age of hockey, that a team like the Panthers, a team that has a stout defense and a really good goalie, can still dominate today's game of speed and just all-out goal scoring? Are you almost surprised that it's almost like back in the day when everyone used to get so pissed off watching the New Jersey Devils? It's like watching that with the Panthers now. Are you surprised that that kind of style is still so dominant in today's era of hockey?
You would think, like, the game has evolved so much to skill, speed, and just pure, like, just incredible playmaking ability. But that's the regular season that it's evolved like that. Every year at the playoffs, we see the de-evolution of hockey, and it goes back to 90s nastiness and 80s nastiness and every other decade. Because to get through those 4 rounds, it is a war of attrition. So the game, while it has evolved significantly in regular seasons, and you don't see a whole lot of ferocity and violent play in the regular season, it's as soon as they put those logos on the ice that say Stanley Cup playoffs in that first round, it's just like it's bananas.
Yeah, man.
The difference in the game is bananas. And I get the same tweet every year if the Flyers aren't in the playoffs. Oh my God, they're so far away watching these playoff teams. And I go, yeah, because they didn't play playoff hockey.
Right.
If they were playing and they made it, they would more closely resemble that because of what's on the line and the urgency and what it means and all that. But yeah, it is amazing. Like, I watched that one clip that came out. It was McDavid was just insane in the offensive zone.
Yeah, man.
And Florida, like the support, the man support, and the switching on defense, and the way that, I mean, he's all over the place. He's the most disgusting skilled player I've ever seen. I don't know that I'll ever see one better. I never thought I'd see a better skater than Paul Coffey until I saw Connor McDavid. And just the way that Florida defends was like, it just chokes you out. Eventually McDavid centered it to the back door, right to a Florida Panther, and they broke out of the zone. Right? And it's not like he doesn't have line mates that are good either,
Oh,
I mean,
right.
Crazy. And the reason why Edmonton's there in the final is really simple. They didn't outscore teams. They learned how to defend.
Right.
They defended their ass off against Vancouver.
Yep. I'm going to ask you, because it's been brought up, and I think he's first ballot. I heard your conversation with Mr. Meltzer, I think this past Monday, about Sergei Bobrovsky. He's 4 wins away from 400. I'm just assuming he's going to get a Stanley Cup here. He's got, 2 Vezina trophies. I mean, he's got to be a first ballot guy, right?
That's a good question if he's first ballot. Because who are who are the other guys that you're going to put in that category? Like Price, he's a first ballot guy because just how dominating he was, and he only got to one Cup final. He was part of that team in 2010, but he wasn't really, that was Halak that year when the Flyers beat them in the conference final.
Yes.
But he was so dominant and his numbers were so good. But other than that, goalies, like, it's a weird conversation for goalies and Hall of Fame sometimes.
Yeah.
There's a lot of guys that aren't in that should be in. And for the importance of the position, there seems to be a lack of importance in putting the right guys into the Hall of Fame. But he's going to be a lot closer to being a first ballot. He's going to be a Hall of Famer.
Right.
Because, as you said, 400 is no joke in today's game.
Yeah.
And, in a lot of ways, he transitioned a big era of goaltending where it changed.
Yeah.
The way the position is played is significantly different and more athletic than ever before. And he's right on the edge of that. And he's a freak show, like Vasilevsky. And he's let in one goal, I think, on 65 shots in the final so far.
Yeah,
against Edmonton.
So let's add, not with the Vezinas and possibly a Cup. You're adding possibly a Conn Smythe there. I mean, no doubt.
Oh, there's no question he's the Conn Smythe now, right?
For sure.
It's probably between him and Barkov, but the NHL doesn't reward defending, top players like it'll reward a goaltender in the playoffs. Whereas I think like the Hall of Fame doesn't give the goaltending its due enough. Oftentimes the Conn Smythe gives it too much,
Yeah.
But not in this case. He'll earn it.
Obviously, this is a really hard question, but we just had a listener come in with this question: is trading Bob the worst trade in Flyers history? I mean, look, that's a long history. That's over 50 years of history. But what would you personally put trading Bob on that list?
Look, here's the deal. Like you can't kind of just look at it like all trades are created equal because they weren't. There's circumstance and context that goes into it. Bill and I talked about this 2 weeks ago because some people are still lamenting that the Flyers traded him when they did, and you have to really understand what happened at that time. He came over. He really faltered and struggled in those playoffs, and the Flyers got bounced that year after winning the first round and losing the second round because the goaltending was not good. And Ed Snyder was like, we're not going through this again. We have a team good enough to go on a run. This is before Pronger got hurt. And, they went out and they got the number one goalie out there in Brizgalov, and they signed him to a 10-year or like 11-year deal or whatever. Yeah. And Bobrovsky doesn't see a path. He's like, I'm not going to re-sign there. There's no path for me to be a starter. So you had to trade him. And then, obviously, he had some years. The first year he got traded, he won a Vezina in Columbus. But, he struggled in the playoffs for really until last year. He was not a good playoff performer. And he was looking like he was washed at that point. But Florida did something really interesting with him, was they managed his workload for the first time. He could never manage it himself. He was too much of a freak. Yeah. He would play a game, as you know, and then he'd ride the bike for 90 minutes.
Yes. Oh,
my gosh. Like a warrior.
Yes.
Like he was training for, the Tour de France after a game. I know. So it was bananas, but they finally got him to manage that, and I think that's been a huge help. And they gave him, good support in tandem with Stolarz now, with Alex Lyon before, and we had Spencer Knight there, and on down the line. But it's not the worst trade in the history because, to me, they didn't give up on him because they didn't believe in him.
Right.
They gave up on him because you had an owner that stepped in and said, we have a chance to win a cup. We have to go out and solve this problem. And by solving that problem, he became expendable by his own admission. I look at guys more like Justin Williams. Yeah. Patrick Sharp. Yep. I'll look at guys that you traded too young. That really became winners. You can look at the Brind'Amour trade and other ones.
Do you look at the Carter Richards now back? If you hindsight 2020, do you give them another year or two to try to get a cup out of that team?
Yeah, I think you should have maybe just made the coaching change sooner.
I agree.
You know how it is, though. Like, there's so much revisionist history.
Of
when it
course.
Comes to, because people were this year going, they should have never fired Laviolette. Like, believe me, like, they had to fire. They waited too long to fire him.
Yeah.
That guy's going to wear himself out everywhere he goes. He knows it. It's part of it's why he's so effective when he comes in.
Yeah.
But if you would have moved on from Laviolette and then moved into Craig Berube, then maybe you could have kept Carter and Richards. Now, I was never in favor of trading both of those guys.
Yeah.
And then they obviously end up get together and they win cups, and it deepens the pain once again in LA. So,
and Justin Williams was on those teams too.
Yeah, Mr. Game 7, like
of course,
just so clutch. Like that guy was great. I mean, those look at those teams, and they were so good. And Andrzej Kopitar, like a lot of people here don't realize how incredible of a player he has been, still is, oddly enough.
Yep.
But like how incredible he is, and the pieces, and Doughty is a total animal.
And they had a decent goalie at the time as well.
Yeah, they had a guy who was look, going into that run though in the first cup, he was not great.
No, he wasn't.
Then in those playoffs, man, did he go to a whole nother level? And he's a guy that I think you're gonna have to look at for the Hall of Fame too at some point. And not a first ballot guy, but he was pretty special.
Yeah, he was decent at best.
So one of my favorites.
Same. You and I could probably talk Jonathan Quick forever.
I liked seeing his resurgence in New York too.
Me too. Yeah.
I did not think he was a guy that could transition into that role. I did not.
No. It's funny you mentioned about Bob riding the bike after every game. I used to go down after each game, and I would go down, and I would always usually I would pass you, and I would go to the doors. And then I would see Braden Coburn always doing the same thing. And I said to myself, what the hell are you doing? You just killed yourself for 2.5 hours, logging the most minutes of anybody else on the ice. And you're over here riding the bike after a game. It's wild. So I kind of want to, start with what's kind of current, what we kind of just found out about. Maybe you knew before it came out today. On another podcast, Sean Couturier talked about he had to get sports hernia surgery. So now if you're asking me, and I'm putting 2 and 2 together, he had 31 points in his first 46 games, and he was looking pretty damn close, Jason, to that, Selke type Sean Couturier of years back. And then out of nowhere in his next 30 games, he had like 7 total points. So if I'm putting 2 and 2 together in my head, the guy's game didn't just go away like that. There had to have been a lot of stuff that dude was dealing with physically for his game to just go away. I don't want to, and I don't believe it now. I don't believe that maybe he wasn't game shape to play his first, 70 game season in 3 years. I think that dude was hurting every single day. What did you make of those comments when you heard about Couturier today?
Yeah, I knew that there was some sort of core issue going back. I think he missed a couple of games in January, I want to say.
Yeah.
Like kind of just after the new year. And I knew that he was dealing with something at that point. And, it was easy to kind of go, well, he was overused, right? And you can say, well, he was overused and then he got hurt. But usually, like, a sports hernia is not an injury as a result of overtaxation of the body. That's just it's a tear that happens in your lower abdominal area. It's not like I don't know why they call it a hernia. They call it a sports hernia because I guess something is herniated, but it's not like an inguinal hernia where your intestine is literally coming through the wall in like your groin area. So it is different in that regard. But you lose a couple of things when you have that, and they were really apparent in his game.
Right.
You lose that ability of explosiveness that you generate from your core, and skating starts in your core. And you saw that, and like Couturier's never been a guy that's fleet of foot. He's never been a burner, never will be a burner. You could strap a jetpack to his ass, he isn't going to be fast.
Right,
it's just not who he is. But he plays the game mentally. His anticipation, his hockey IQ. What we saw in the beginning, I was stunned. I was like, whoa, this is. For missing that much hockey, I'm really surprised at where he is. And then where it looked like he was, I did know that he was dealing with something. Not my job to make that public. And I'm not going to go on and make excuses for him. I think he wrestled with it the rest of the year. You can say, well, maybe he should have had a procedure done in season. That was the last thing you were going to get him to do. after missing 21 months was to shut it down. Wasn't going to happen. It was something that could easily be taken care of in the offseason, has been, and he'll be fine. From what I understand, it's not as significant of a sports hernia that Giroux dealt with one offseason and Gostisbehere dealt with, where when they both came back, like Giroux had that really one down year, I think he had 56 or 58 points, and it was right around the time he was like 28, 29, 30 years old. People were going, oh, he's decreasing in points every year. He looks like, and then he came back the year after that and had 102.
Right.
So, because he had to break down scar tissue and stuff like that, you can see he was really limited. And there is a similarity in Giroux's game and Couturier's game. Neither of them are great skaters. They think the game really well. So,
very much so.
So it'll be interesting to see how Couturier gets out of the box next year. I know he's been in town rehabbing and working out here, which is great. So I think you're seeing a really motivated guy. He does not want last season to be a repeat. I think he wants to see his first 35 games kind of be what he is for the entirety of a season. Then he'll feel like he's truly back.
I agree. And you hear a lot of other content creators who I'm never going to call out or mention their name, but okay. We, of course, you know. So, I hear the same thing, like maybe the pressure of getting the C put on him and knowing that people didn't like that idea or didn't like that
Those are
decision.
people that have never played team sport in their life. It's certainly not hockey. Yeah. If you think that pressure of wearing that was a reason why he wasn't playing well.
Yeah.
Like, come on. It changed nothing about the guy. He's exactly the same guy. It doesn't make him go out there and squeeze his stick more. That's just an incredibly asinine and frankly dumb statement to even consider that the weight of the sea. Fuck off. That is not the come on. Yeah. That's just silly.
So let me let's go into what's probably going to come to a head right around probably July 1, and that's what's going on, or what might go on with TK, with Travis Konecny. Again, I like to talk. I don't bring up names, but I do listen to what other people are saying within the Flyers media market, just to kind of get the gist of what the temperature is of certain topics. And I heard something today, and it's another content creator, and it kind of got my juices flowing in the sense of, okay, so you're in a rebuild. We get it. This team is rebuilding towards the future. But you got to trade everyone. If you're young and he's got value, you got to trade every single guy. If he's remotely talented, see what you can get for him and deal him. And it really pissed me off. And I said to myself, again, this is somebody who just happens to fall into Flyer stuff and thinks that, this is how it should be. You have to have players to build around. Can TK help the team make the playoffs? Of course. Can TK help the team win in the playoffs? Yes, of course he can. He's 27 years old. He's not 31. This is you look at teams and you build around these young guys, and I still consider TK young. Colorado broke it down to the seams a long time ago. Edmonton did the same thing. Pittsburgh did the same thing.
Funny thing is Colorado broke it down to the seams, seemingly bottomed out, but didn't bottom out again until 2016-17.
Right.
When they end up drafting McCarr, they had the worst record in the league. But
exactly. Anyway. So, and I look at this Flyers team now, and I hear people throwing the numbers of $9-10 million for TK, and other people say, well, no, he has to be around what Jake Gunsel's market is. And I want people to get the gist of this, and there was somebody else who said this, and I agree with him. $10 million for a guy who's established himself as either a first-line winger or a second-line winger, in 3 or 4 years from now, those types of players are going to be making $11-12.5 million a year, where this guy you might be able to lock up as your franchise guy, which he almost deserves to be. You could lock him up for 9.5, maybe 10, and in 3 or 4 years, he's scoring 35 goals a year, and that's almost a bargain in what the NHL is going to be. And again, Jason, I bring it back, this is the most popular player on the team. He's a really good dude in the locker room. He's well-liked. He loves playing here. I think this upcoming season is going to be the year where we see a 4 in front of that goal number, and then a 0, maybe even more than that. I really think he's going to reach that level of 40 goals. Where do you stand on this whole Travis Konecny situation and thought process that's going through a lot of Flyers fans' heads, and like, where do you value him, and where do you see him in the future?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think you could see a 4 there if you can find a power play. Like
I agree.
he has played on some horse ass power plays. I mean,
Exactly.
12.2% last year.
Oh,
Imagine if they were just, where the Sharks were at 19%. He would have,
yeah.
but just by proxy, he would have got 10 more points.
Hmm.
Don't forget to mention part of his value is also the fact that he led the NHL in shorthanded goals. He had 9.
Yeah.
Or he had
Yes.
he had 6, but still, he's got 9 in 2 years, and he's one of the top penalty. Here's the deal. What did that guy say real quick? I want to see what he said.
Sign
TK.
TK. Yeah, and then call Ottawa on what's going on Brady Tkachuk.
Well, yeah, I want Brady Tkachuk all day too.
Yes.
I heard his name back in the last third of the season.
Hmm.
Brady Tkachuk's, but okay. So there's a lot of angles to the TK thing. First and foremost, there's a tipping point. There always
Right.
is, and he, like I say, he is 27. But I think there's also value in a guy that you drafted, developed, never played a game in the AHL, mind you. Has been a player that, for the most part, has been pretty healthy. Not this past season, the season prior, he had some weird injuries, and then he missed a little bit this past season as well. Like to see him be able to play 78 games minimum.
Yeah, he
and
played
kinda see
76 this year.
Yeah, so yeah, I mean, he missed a couple this year. Again, it was
Yeah.
quirky. There's no, kind of reoccurring type injury that you ever worry
Yeah.
about. With, like, the one time he was turned and a guy ran into him that had his head turned and hit his wrist, and he missed 10 games the year prior. But those are fluky things that are going to happen in hockey. But there is a tipping point. Now, to kind of defend the people that, like, I know Anthony Sanfilippo put out that 10.5 is a number, and that's the number he's hearing. Just remember, like, first and foremost, any information that gets out there, or TK is looking for 10.5. Well, so am I. I ain't going to get it.
Right.
You know what I mean? I'm looking for 10.5 mil in my new deal. I'm not
Right.
going to get it. These
Yep.
are all, you got to realize that all the information that gets out this time of year especially has got an agenda parachuted to the back of it. There's no reason to put out information unless it's got an agenda. So they're putting out their 10.5, so you just got to remember that. The reality of the situation always is somewhere in the middle.
Yeah.
So, like, people are, I'm not paying him 10, and there's sticker shock.
Yes.
Like, they're thinking $10 million player. Like, you kidding me? Like, McDavid gets 13. Is he not even close? And I get the sticker shock. I get it.
Yeah.
But you can't look at the number. You got to look at the percentage of cap, to your point.
Correct.
So, I think the ceiling where I would be comfortable going is about 9.25. Because I
Yeah.
look at some other I look at the Timo Meier deal, Timo Meier has scored more goals than TK, but very similar in points. TK actually has a higher point per game average in his last 5 years. Leading into that, Timo Meier, I think his cap hit's about 8.5, but he signed that deal like 2 years ago when the cap wasn't going up, so he'd probably fall into that same 9.25 range. Barzell's another guy. TK's got more goals than Barzell, so if you value goals more there, but Barzell's got more assists and points per game. Barzell had the 185-point season, but he hasn't really gone above like 62 cents. But he's a guy that people love because they wow him, and he's played on some good teams, so that's helped.
Sure.
And played on the Islanders with a good power play and a lot of size around him to protect him and blah, blah, blah. And Barzell's at 9.1, and that was signed a year and change ago. So, like, that 9.2 feels like the sweet spot of a ceiling for me. Am I trying to get him at 8.5? Absolutely. If you get him,
Of course.
But there's people, the hot takers are out there. I wouldn't pay him over $7 million. If it starts with an 8, forget it. Well, you're an idiot.
I agree.
Because you have to look at now. The cap is going up.
Yes.
And salaries go up along with it.
Yes.
The cap is determined by HRR. It's 50%. Blah, blah, blah. Players get half. Owners get the other half. And the thing that people don't take into like people overvalue draft picks like they are gold bullion spit down from the heavens. Like they think that anybody get trade TK and give me a haul. Well, okay, define haul and tell me how you're getting a haul for a guy that's on an expiring contract. And if you trade him, and he goes to your city. Say you trade him to Team X.
Yes.
And he goes there and he has an 85-point season. Guess what Team X has to do now? Sign him for more money than they're paying than he's going to get right now. So you want him to come there and succeed, but the bill's just getting bigger. So that's number one. And then you cannot rebuild a team with all players 23 and under.
You
can't do it.
No.
First of all their RFA deals are coming up at the same time. They're all going to get paid. It's not a sustainable model. And the last thing is this, and I think this is a really important thing. I've talked to a lot of guys that have played in the league, are playing in the league, and the notion that a drafted and developed player, you're just going to cast aside now that he's due his big payday, that leaves a poor taste in the players around the league. For sure. They're going, this guy came in. I mean, look, he's stepped into a leadership role. He has evolved his game on and off the ice. He's a good citizen. He wants to be there. He's had the best years of his career. And they go, we don't want to pay him. We're just going to trade him, and we're going to flip him for. Yeah. Believe me, that's going to go over like an anvil in the locker room existing, and it's going to go over it's going to be a signal to anybody, whether they're traded for, acquired, signed, whatever it is, that this organization isn't serious. That's just the way it's perceived. And if you want to be an organization, you got to be one that takes care of the guys that have gone out there and bled for you. It's what Ed Snyder always did. It's what the top organizations always do. Vegas is the only one that's gotten away with not doing it and winning. But they also have a very short history because they're a team that has not been in the league very long.
Yeah.
But any other team that's done it, it does not lead to good things. It just doesn't.
And you have to also, and I think the goodwill thing, like you just said, really is a factor because I can almost guarantee, and Jason, you would know better than I, you were there every day, you can pretty much guarantee that Sean Walker left this organization speaking very highly of Danny Briere, Keith Jones, the entire crew and the entire organization of the Flyers, and such glowing remarks that other players are going to pay attention to wanting to possibly, play in Philadelphia because, again, you have a Tortorella, you have a team that, probably overachieved this past year, and if it wasn't for a last 14-game meltdown, that's a postseason playoff team in a year that everyone just thought was just going to be, wipe my hands, and it's a rebuild year. And I think, what happened with a Sean Walker and how respectful they were towards him, I really think that goes a long way with when Sean Walker gets to other locker rooms and people are asking him, what was it like in Philadelphia?
Yeah. I brought this up with Dan Hilferty when I had him on about 2 weeks ago.
Oh, that's right. That's right. I heard that. Okay.
Yeah. I said he's a rogue agent. He's an agent for you guys.
He is, yeah.
You're not going to bring him back because of your situation on your blue line, both now and down the line. It doesn't make sense. But the value of Sean Walker is the experience that he had here.
Yeah.
And that, he would love to come back here if it worked out right, but it's not going to for him. But they all talk, those players.
Oh, yeah.
They're going to go, this guy was relatively obscure player in the NHL. All of a sudden goes to Philly, explodes. He's going to get paid because of it.
Yep. Because
it's his UFA year. And, he goes and plays for Tortorella, who unleashes him, which, some of the narratives about Torts are totally backwards, and that's another one of them. But he had a great experience here. So he's a guy that is a messenger for this team going forward.
Yeah.
And who knows who he said something to or will say something to and what effect that will have, because that could be literally the determining factor when two teams are courting a UFA or something like that. I think it's a big, big element. When the guys are here, you make sure that they are absolutely taken care of. They know that you care about them as people, as players, as citizens of the city, and their families.
Yeah.
And you do that, and it will be returned to you. because not every organization is viewed that way, and those things are important to players.
And you brought it up in the interview with Mr. Helferty, and he actually, I think he's the one that did say, I think when you rebuild locker rooms, the practice facility gets redone, the major upgrades to the arena, that I think that matters to a player and matters to their family. And I think what this new ownership or new management has done to this organization is let the league know, yeah, we're in a new era of orange, as they say, but we're taking this shit pretty seriously moving forward. Like that, and I love when Keith Jones kept bringing up Mr. Snyder and the legacy that he wanted to leave here. And do you think, outside of Sean Walker, do you think it's making the rounds around the NHL that, man, Philadelphia Flyers, I mean, that's an organization now. I really want to, I want to get back, or I want to play for that city.
Yeah, I think that word travels fast amongst player circles and, in particular, agent circles. They know that you come here and you will be taken care of. Like, even in kind of the depths of where the Flyers went under previous management on the business and hockey side, they were still well thought of in that regard. Not as well thought of, but a player wants to show up to a practice facility that is top notch, the weight room, everything, and it is. They've spent a ton of dough over there. Matter of fact, when I was taping with Dan, you could hear more renovations going on in the background of where we were taping the interview in the office up there. And then you look at those practice facilities. You look at, the locker room makeover they did. I wouldn't be ashamed to say it. I'd book a wedding in there.
Oh, dude, I would too.
It was stunning.
Oh my God.
I walked in that room, I'm like, this is not a locker room.
Can I get dressed in here? Can you guys let me get dressed in here just once?
It's like you see some of those on like the behind the scenes shows and stuff like that of different rooms around the league, and like this one was like, okay, it's taken all those and put those on steroids. It's like the newest, the most updated, unbelievable. And trust me, like behind those walls in there, like where the cold tubs are and the hot tubs and the steam, all of the dressing room, not the locker room, the dressing room where they get out of their street clothes. Like it is all stunning, like great furniture, everything. It's all there, and those things matter to players. Because that's where they go every day.
Yeah, man.
We don't see that stuff. We see the 2 hours and 40 minutes of game time.
Yep.
But those other things, the other 21 plus hours in a day, are spent in those other areas, and those things really, really do matter to players because, that's their space, and they want to know that they're taken care of. The family room is the new family room. Oh, unbelievable! So that you can bring your wife and your kids or your girlfriend or whoever, and they're going to just lap it up in luxury. And look, happy wife, happy life. It doesn't change because you're making millions.
Correct.
It's the same thing.
Correct.
So, those things matter.
That's
important.
terrific. A couple more questions for you. I don't want to take up too much of your time. What do you know, if anything, about the Michkov situation? I know, again, your guess might be as good as anybody else's, but, I guess maybe I'm ignorant in saying it, but I would assume that maybe the thought process of what Briere and Keith Jones want to do in the offseason might be based on if Michkov is in fact coming here for the season, right?
Well, he's definitely a factor in how you operate.
Yeah.
I don't think it changes things drastically. I don't think you go, okay, we're going to go out and get in free agents. You still don't have...
They still don't have money.
You still don't have the money to do it. And it doesn't make sense, even if he's coming or not. But from a roster standpoint, you have to figure things out because obviously he'll take a roster spot.
Yes.
And a significant one. Like I said before when we were talking about TK, like you always got to consider information getting out that has an agenda. And when it comes to Michkov, like, to me, I go, okay, hey, there's some smoke. Is there a fire? I don't know. It's just an easy kind of layup name to throw out there and get some clicks. Okay, there's some more smoke. Is there a fire? Probably not. But when we see, like, constant smoke around a guy, you go, okay, there's a fire somewhere. I don't know how big it is or what, but like clearly, like this is not like there's something to it. Like I don't have
Yeah.
any insight information, I don't have any connections over in Russia,
Hmm.
but
How dare you?
yeah, I mean, I think that they're in a position that hey, they set the expectation. It'll be 3 years and he'll play out his contract. If he gets here early, he gets here early. I think they're playing a little coy with the situation. I think it's more likely that he comes over than not, just based on what the information is that got out there. So, so we'll see where it goes.
Yeah.
Obviously, it would be very exciting because,
Yes.
I mean, the guy, basically set a record in point per game average of draft plus one Russian players in the KHL at that age. So, I mean, there's an absolute animal of a player there. So,
Yes.
that changes. It'll change things.
Yeah. All right. So to kind of now carry over into to piggyback that into this offseason, we know that there's a lot of money tied up. We know the situations in terms of certain guys that might be, uh, um, you know, eligible for buyouts, the Cam Atkinsons, the Cal Pedersens. Um, so most likely the Flyers would have to attack the trade market. They do have some pieces. Obviously, they have draft picks that they have in their favor. They have assets. Um, in your opinion, where do you think? I know they've, Briere and Keith Jones already said that they're not going to be big players in the free agency at all, but the trade market could be there. Do you see a real good, a decent name, a big name being traded for in this offseason, maybe on the draft floor, on maybe before or after?
Yeah, it's a hard thing to predict because
Yeah.
it takes more than your will and desire to do so. It takes the will and desire of another organization. And if you're doing it for something really significant, like we mentioned Brady Tkachuk before, you have to overpay for him.
Yep.
Now he's a player I'd overpay for
Yes.
because and I'm not just because of his brother, but because I think of how he would fit. I can imagine a line of like Morgan Frost, Matvei Michkov, and Brady Tkachuk. Like the amount of space that he would provide those other two players.
Don't do this to me.
Oh my God! Like Morgan Frost would be an animal in that
Yes.
situation, and maybe we'd see the true player that he can be if he had line mates like that. But yeah, I agree. Like I kind of said all along that this is not the offseason to go big game hunting in free agency because I think with the cap finally going up, there's a premium on what is not a great free agency class to begin with, and then the premium plus is there because it's the first time the cap's going up. So I kind of want to sit that one out, and because of
I
their
agree.
cap situation with,
For sure.
they have dead money in players in, Peterson's a guy that you could buy out. He's going to be with the Phantoms. I don't buy him out because I don't want to extend that, and I think him as a sort of kind of 1B backup role with the Phantoms is not a bad thing for a player like Kolosov to kind of play the bulk of the games, but you have a veteran there with Peterson, so I don't buy him out. I ride out that last year of his deal, and he plays it in the AHL. When it comes to Ryan Johansson, I can't buy out because he's injured, and you can't buy out injured players. And I think you're just going to have to LTIR that one. And then I think Cam Atkinson is one they will buy out. And that'll be something where you go, well, you're going to extend that cap hit a little bit longer.
Yes. Yeah.
But, I think you get equity in treating a player like Cam Atkinson with respect and buying him out and allowing him to pick where he can go to put a bow on his career. So I think that's money well spent.
I heard somebody else say, we know. I heard, and he brought up the point of, well, if he's such a respected player, which he is, he's a veteran who's been around a long time. He was a Torts guy. Why don't you? He probably knows he's not going to be getting a lot of minutes. Why don't you just ride out the final year, stick him on the fourth line, and then you can ride off into the sunset?
He's not a fourth line player. Yeah, he's just not.
So
he does me no good on the fourth line.
Yeah.
Right. He's not a guy as a fourth line player. Like, he's got to minimum be a third line player.
Yeah.
If he's going to play somewhere, he doesn't want to be here and be a fourth line player.
Yeah.
It's not how he views himself.
Yeah.
So yeah, to me that no.
Well, remember,
I
that
do him
didn't
a
come from
solid.
me.
Yeah, I buy him out and I let
I agree.
him try and finish his career with some dignity. But clearly, look, he lost a year with 34 years of age.
Yes.
That's not ideal. So,
No.
So yeah, I would probably buy him out. But then yeah, not in the trade market, that's where I'm big game hunting. And
Yes.
I think that's where Danny Briere is talking to a lot of people going back to the deadline. We heard a lot of talk about Ottawa at the deadline in regards to Chikrin or Shabbat was a name that I heard out there quite a bit. I don't think it's for a D though. Like I look at their D and I go, okay, why are you trading for a D?
Yeah.
Like it just doesn't make sense to me.
I really hope they're staying far away from Trevor Zegras. I'm just really hoping that's not.
Oh, but no, but people will tell you, you got to go out and get Zegras now.
No,
they haven't watched him though. They don't realize that
That's
Zegras had
the
19 points until 20 games were left in the season and like 6 goals. You'd think this freaking Zegras.
Yep.
You'd think it's the incarnation of Gretzky, like because he scored a couple of Michigan goals.
Yes.
Like Jesus, like apparently he's a really nice kid.
Yeah.
And he's got a ton of talent, but he has just not fulfilled it. And but he's all the way out in Anaheim, so nobody knows, right? And they see his YouTube clips and the skill, and I get it. But geez, know kind of what he is first. Like he is. First of all, they go, "Well, he's your 1C." I go, "He's not even a center,
no,
let alone a 1C. He's a winger.
Absolutely,
he can't play center. No. Yeah, not on my team." So and they'll go, well, "I'll give up Cam York." What?
Please God, no.
Stop it already! People just get enamored with the name.
Yeah.
But,
by the way,
I'd be in favor of acquiring him in the right deal, but let's not get crazy about what Trevor Zegras is here.
Yes, I agree. All right, so before I let you go, I was going to do some draft talk, but I might want to save that for another episode.
I'm not good on that anyways. Shit! Florida's just beating the doors off them now, 4-1.
Let's go.
4 minutes left in the second.
Jeez. I'm going to do some name association. If you can, maybe tell me your thoughts on the year that they had and maybe where they fit in the next year or so on this team. Is that cool?
Yeah.
All right. And it's funny you just said his name, a guy who I think is another year away from really setting himself up for a pay raise, and that's Cam York.
He can be extended as soon as July 1st as well, but he is an ARB-eligible restricted free agent after next year. Boy, talk about, you want to do some name association? Bargain. 1.6 mil for a guy. He's going to lead the team in minutes next year, no doubt.
Yep.
To me, Chris, he's the single best storyline of any player last season. I'm stunned at his ability to defend off the rush, which is such a huge element in today's game, the way it's open.
Yeah.
Just because of his balance and the way he skates,
yeah, but he's too small.
And that's the thing too. Look ridiculous. At him. You think he's too cool for school, right?
Yeah.
The guy was second in the team in block shots. And he knows how to put his body in the places to block shots.
Yeah.
I asked Torts about 30 games into the season about him. And Torts says, I know he's an NHLer now. And I said, but is there a killer in there? He's like, I'm not sure. And I said to him, if there's not, he's going to always leave you wanting more. And I revisited that with Torts at the end of the year. And he said there's an absolute killer in there, and that's why you saw the development you saw. He's real chill. He's real laid back. But make no mistake about it, that guy, he knows how to, kind of maximize his minutes.
Yep.
He doesn't empty the tank completely knowing that he'll never get a splash back in. He's going to be a guy that can play 28 minutes and you'll never see him leaning on his knees. Very Doughty-like in that regard. Like Doughty, I've never even seen Doughty huff and puff.
No.
He plays 28 minutes a night. Same thing with Hedman. I never see Hedman look tired.
Yeah.
Because they know how to economize their energy. Cam York's got. I'm not saying he's going to be one of those players, but he's much better than I thought he was going to be, especially at this point. He's 24 years old. He is a really important piece.
Literally probably one of the best bargains in the league right now, bar none.
Oh, at 1.6 million, Jesus.
Yeah. I have a funny Doughty story I'll tell you off the record that Richie told me a little bit ago. The next one I have is one I'm going to be paying really big attention to this season, Sam Erson.
Well, that's a twofold one. That's the Sam Ersson, Ivan Fedotov question, really.
Yeah.
And to me, there's no bigger question mark coming into the season than goaltending.
I've been this route before.
Yeah, I mean, we've been down this road. People go,
Yeah.
oh, I mean, look, before Hart was done, that Colorado game that they lost 5-2, before that, I think it was higher scoring than that even. Both goalies got into it. Hart was pulled in his last game as a Flyer. Before that, people were saying, trade Hart for a Hall. Not realizing you couldn't trade him, obviously, for obvious reasons.
Yeah.
But Erson's ready to be the number one. And then as soon as Hart was gone, Erson struggled for
Yeah.
and it wasn't just the numbers. It was the eye test. It was everything. I was really happy how he finished the season, that he battled. The fact that he won a 1-0 game in Game 81. Like, I even asked him about it. I said, dude, like, did you even think it would be possible for you to win a 1-0 game at that point after what had taken place the previous 3 weeks? And he's like, no. The fact that he did, I mean, that's the highest of pressure situations. A game we got to win, and you win it 1-0. Like, that's difficult. But where's he going to be next year with the expectation of being the guy? That's a big thing for a goalie. You know, like being the guy that's going to play 28 to 35 games is different than being the guy that's going to be projected to play 55. It's a big difference. And couple that, like, what are we going to get from Fedotov? Like, I'm not judging him on anything of last year.
You can't.
That'd be
Yeah, it's unfair.
I'd get kicked out of the goalie union. It'd be so stupid. It'd be goaltender malfeasance.
Right.
I mean, like, when he came in, people were like, throw him in there. I'm like, are you freaking crazy? And they're like, why not? You just stopping a puck. I'm like, well,
Okay.
first, so I had Kevin Woodley on, and Kevin Woodley from InGoal was like, you know, without telling those people they're ignorant, because it's almost like he's playing two different sports.
Right.
From what he played in the KHL and what he played in the NHL. You go, well, he's wearing the same equipment. No, he's not.
Nope.
Pad's much smaller in the NHL. They all
Correct.
have to be approved from K Whitmore. So he's got to get all new equipment. And if you think you just step into goalie equipment and go out there and play and be fine, not true. Even with today's equipment that breaks in so easily by comparison. Like, you saw him in a couple of his games just booting pucks off his glove because he had no feel in it. So, like, and the worst, like, I talked to him about it. I saw a Reddit page, like, guys were killing me. Like, equipment doesn't matter, blah, blah. So I, naturally, when I sat down with Ivan, I asked him about it. And he's like, the worst is the chest protector. Exactly what I said. You feel like you're being strangled by a new chest protector. You used to wear one that just breaks down and it just, like, hangs on like a T-shirt. Put a new one on, it's like you can't breathe. They're the most exhausting practices you'll ever have because your rest points aren't, all that stuff. But what are you going to get out of him next year?
Yeah.
Does he adjust? Like, there were some things that concerned me in those 3 games. Like, every time he came out, I would see him look down at his feet, going, "Am I in my net where I think I am? Is that just the spatial awareness? You know, is that something normal in his game? Like, I don't know." So there's massive question marks when it comes to goaltending.
Oh, it's killing me.
Can they end up as a plus good column? Absolutely.
Yeah.
But do I know? No.
Last couple here. Jamie Drysdale.
Only thing that matters for Jamie Drysdale, 2 things. I lied.
Availability.
Availability is key. He's got to be available, and he needs to be Bradshawed.
Boy, that should be a T-shirt.
Yeah. That Cam York, frankly, should wear. I've been Bradshawed. Yep. SH.
So good.
You should just say SHAW-D.
Yes.
Shawed.
I'd buy that. I'd heartbeat. A name that's probably going to be thrown around the trade market a lot this offseason, Joel Farabee.
I think that this is a name that's going to be thrown around a lot. It's been thrown around a good bit already. Again, another guy that I thought was off to a great start through the first 50 games. Consistent, had very few back-to-back games where he didn't end up on the score sheet. And all of a sudden, his game looked like it just lacked a lot of bite.
Yeah.
It really did. And so I'll be interested. If he's here, I think he is a guy that could be involved in the deal because he's got a very palatable contract. He's young. There could be some
82 games this year.
Yeah, and the year prior when they didn't even think he was going to play until Thanksgiving that year, coming off that neck surgery. Important year for him.
Yeah.
To kind of put a full 82 together. He scored more than 20 goals. He did
Yep.
that also, scored 20 in the shortened season when he played 54 or 56 games,
Yep.
which was a nice feat, but like to see a full 82.
The last couple of names, I'm going to lump these in together so you can answer them all at the same time. Travis Sanheim, Tyson Forrester, and Noah Cates.
Boy, three varying answers.
Mm-hmm.
Word association for Travis Sanheim is the leader.
Yep.
Absolute leader.
Mental toughness is how I say
Yep.
to that dude. What he dealt with all off season, during the season, just mentally tough dude.
Yep, and used it the right way.
Yes.
I was really impressed with him.
No boo-boo face from that guy.
No, he said, all right,
Nope.
I earned the criticism. Let me earn my way out of it, and he did.
Mm-hmm.
I'll go to Noah Cates next. I thought after the injury, it looked like he was carrying a refrigerator up the ice.
Yeah.
Not the most fleet of foot skater, obviously, to begin with, but really smart. His season started to look like click a little bit at the very end, but I wonder what he is next year.
Yeah.
And I don't just mean position. Like, I don't know if he's a center or if he's a winger. I think if you want offense, he's got to play on the wing. I think you can be a really good defender and be a winger. Like Mark Stone was a great example of that.
Great example.
I mean, go way back. I mean, even you go back to the Canadiens days. There's a guy that won a bunch of Selkies that was a winger, you know? So that can happen. And then when it comes to Tyson Forster, he shot a lot more at the end of the year, which I liked. I still want to see more.
Yes.
Like anytime I ever see him, I walk by the hall and go, shoot.
Yeah.
Like, just shoot. Stop deferring. Like, the other guys can't. Other dudes, like, whoever you're giving it to, they can't shoot like you.
No.
Maybe Tippett can, but that's the only one. Nobody else can shoot it like you. Shoot.
Mm-hmm.
He's got to be more selfish, and I think he started to be at the end of the year. But, man, the thing with him that I was really impressed by, I thought the skating would be more of an issue for him. It's not.
Mm-hmm.
But he is so heavy on board battles on his stick. Like, he does not get beat through the hands and through the stick. He's so strong and heavy on it. And he stayed here all last summer. He stayed here this summer working out. And that just shows me a really driven guy to prove people wrong early. And that's a great trait to have. Just don't put that guy in a losing environment because you can ruin that.
Yeah, I mean, in his last 2 months of the season, in 20 games, he had 11 goals. And I felt like he just really found his rhythm in those last 2 months of the year. So I'm really excited to see what he does carrying that over into 24.
He'll be a top 3 goal scorer for the team next year. He has a chance to lead the team, I don't think next year, but maybe in the next couple of years, in goals, especially if they can get a power play and get a really magical playmaker like Michkov, like on that power play to get him the puck where he wants it. If you do, I mean, that guy's going to score a lot of one-time goals.
Yeah.
And goals where he just migrates from off the half wall to the middle of the ice and it just beats goalies because of other options that are out there, backdoor plays and stuff like that where a goalie has to be cognizant of it and may cheat a little bit. So he's one of those guys that I think has this ability to understand that a goalie's weight may be on his right leg and will shoot in a spot where his weight distribution prohibits him from making a save because he can shoot it that well. He doesn't even know it. Like, pure goal scorers the guys that can shoot like that, they don't know it.
No.
Like, they're not calculating it. Oh, his weight's on his right leg, and he probably can't push to his left. Or, they don't think of it that way. But they just innately know it. And I think he's one of those guys.
I've taken up so much of your time, man. How can people find you on the social webs and on podcasting? How can we see you? You're available every day, so how can we find you?
Yeah, this time I only do 3 a week this time of year, so we do Monday, Wednesday, Friday. But on Twitter at Jason Myrt, JSONMYRT. Flyers Daily, like I said, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. We're still finishing up the Exit Day interview, Sealer tomorrow. And then Drysdale's next week, I know that. And Noah Cates coming up, and Tyson Forster as well, Bobby Brink. And then And also on the Flyers YouTube channel, we put those out, all podcasting
Yes.
platforms, and kind of dark right now. We'll stick to hockey, but we'll see where that goes coming up in the fall. That's about it, though.
Awesome. Jason, I want to thank you so much for joining me on episode 1. I really hope to get you on again. I mean, I could do this all night. So I really appreciate it, man. You're a legend, and you're pure class all the way. And I really appreciate everything that you do.
Oh, man. I appreciate that, Chris. You know that. I love talking hockey, and I like talking to people that know what they're talking about.
Oh, well, that's a big compliment, because, I hear all the time I don't know shit. Just because I'm not on here all the time doesn't mean I don't
just
pay
stay off that
attention to
Twitter.
things. Yeah, that's what I mean. I just stay off as much as I can, man. It's so hard. All right, guys. Thank you so much. Head over to the Ring the Bell Network on YouTube. Like, subscribe, and ring that bell for notifications. We're almost at 2,700 subscribers, so we're doing well. We're doing the best that we can here. So we hope you all have a great rest of your week and weekend. We'll catch you guys down the road. Have a great one. Bye-bye.